Today on Locked On Red Wings, who in this Eastern Conference wildcard race is real, who's fake, and how can Detroit separate themselves from the pack?
You're Locked On Red Wings, your daily podcast on the Detroit Red Wings, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Red Wings podcast. We are your hosts, Brian Fisher and Scotty Bentley. Scotty's a host over at Locked On Tigers, as well as a freelance journalist for the Detroit News, while I am a color commentator for Oakland University ACHA D1 men's hockey. And today we want to just take a look at this dense Eastern Conference wildcard race, because Detroit's 7-game win streak has placed them firmly in the wild card race, just 2 points of the final slot, currently held by the Jackets. The problem is they are far from alone. The Canadiens and the Penguins are hot on their heels too, and there's even more teams that are just ahead and just behind them as well. So we're going to talk about those teams, who we think is a real threat for that wild card and who we think is just hot right now. And on top of that, how can the Red Wings then separate themselves from that pack as they try to make a real push for that final wild card spot? Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets if you win or lose your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Scotty, let's just jump right into it because, as I prefaced, there are a lot of teams in the mix, so we have a lot of teams to talk about. Let's just go. I actually want to go standings-wise right now. I actually want to start with Wild Card 1 because I think the Boston Bruins are a very, very intriguing team to talk about. They are holding on to the Wild Card 1 with 47 points, but they have a goal differential of -26, second worst in the conference. Are the Boston Bruins a real threat for a wild card in your opinion?
Yeah, I understand the goal differential thing, and they've had some turbulence there with like coaching and whatnot already on the season. I say already, obviously the Wings have had their fair share too, but like I am of the belief, and maybe this is oversimplified, this mindset, and this is like a stupid thing to base, I don't know, an opinion off of. But like, with Boston, I'm pretty much just like, I have to see it to believe it. Like, until they just like completely, genuinely crash out and just are not a part of the mix anymore, they're always going to be in the mix to me. They still have talent that they I don't know. Like I think that we've all been waiting for age to kind of catch up to Boston for a while, and while they continuously have taken steps back since the record-setting year, I think there's a difference between taking a step back and like not even legitimately being a threat to the wild card. So yeah, like this is still a team that's over 500, and really until I see them physically completely bottom out, I'm going to believe that they're going to be at least in the race.
I don't think they're real, Scotty. I don't. I think that they are giant frauds. I'm going to just go on the record and say that.
Giant frauds is crazy.
They are being hardcore carried by David Pastrnak, who's got 45 points in 45 games. The next best producing forward is Brad Marchand at 33 at 45. They don't have both those players are -10, -7 respectively, and obviously you don't. That plus minus is not an end all be all by any stretch of the imagination. They're a middle of the pack, actually slightly below middle of the pack in 5-on-5 statistics in Corsi for percentage and expected goals for percentage. They give up so many goals because Jeremy Swayman has not been the guy he was last year. He's got 8.95. We already know they have no center depth. They just came off a 6-game losing streak, and this is after they already fired their head coach. So they got a new coach bump, and this is a cautionary tale if you're a Red Wings fan. They got a new coach bump, and now they're struggling again because they still lack depth really past Pastrnak and Marchand. Elias Lindholm, who was one of their big free agent pickups, has 21 points in 45 games played. Nikita Zadorov on defense has got 10 in 45, and that's defense. You don't necessarily depend on them to bring a lot of the production, but a lot of their free agent acquisitions have not worked out for them, and they're relying a lot on star power, and they have a star. So, I mean, as long as you have Pastrnak on your team, it's not impossible, and they hold on to that one right now, that one wild card right now, but Again, you bring up a good point. You got to see it so you believe it before you believe it, because how many times with this team have we had this conversation? But I'm watching this team and they don't look very good. And
which I think is fair. We can move on. We can't spend too long on any one given team here if we want to crank through the conference here. But I can remember us saying something similar and then them setting the all-time record for points in a season. So
we say it every year.
Right. That's just kind of why I'm hesitant to jump on that ship. But
they're the anti-Maple Leafs in a way where actually, no, they're actually similar to, no, they're anti-Maple Leafs where we're like, this is the year they win the cup and they don't do it. Not that we want them to, but you just think Austin Matthews, all that talent. How could they not? Next up, we go to the second wild card team. They hold the second wild card with 46 points, 2 points ahead of the Detroit Red Wings. That's the Columbus Blue Jackets with 43 games played. Surprise team to be in this situation, especially given the tragedy that they had in the offseason, losing Johnny Gaudreau. But Zach Werenski's been a superstar defenseman, one of the unsung superstar defensemen in the league, in my opinion. And then Kirill Marchenko. Honest to God, that's the engine of this team, because their goaltending, that ain't it. Their goaltending is rough. Elvis Merzlikins, Daniil Tarasov, those guys aren't great. We saw that when the Red Wings played them. But it's Kirill Marchenko and Zach Werenski and Sean Monahan having a career season with the Columbus Blue Jackets. I think he may have just gotten injured. I'd have to double check on that. But are they real, Scotty?
This is kind of a weird one for me. I think in their current state, I would say I'm expecting them to kind of drop off as the year goes along, but I also could see a reality where at the trade deadline they acquire some solid goaltending and then make a run, stay afloat. I don't think this is a cup contender, certainly, but they have gotten, as you mentioned, a lot of really good production really across the board. And I think the only thing really standing in their way right now is goal prevention, which they have next to none of. It reminds me of Buffalo from a few years ago. So yeah, I think that in its current state, I would say no, they're not real. But I also think that, again, trade deadline is going to be a very interesting time for a lot of teams. And if they choose to buy, which would be a bold move, but if they choose to go that route and they bring in some solid goaltending, maybe somebody, with multiple years of control or on a multi-year deal or whatnot, then my answer may change.
I think what I'm about to say is going to sound very similar to what you just said, but also something that we've been saying for the last couple of years. I think they are outscoring their problems right now.
Yeah.
Because outside of Zach Werenski, I really think they lack defensive depth, but plus, like you mentioned, goaltending is not good. Special teams is just all right. Nothing to write home about. Not poor. The power play, actually, you know what? I'm correct myself. The power play is 9th in the league. They have a top 10 power play, again, outscoring.
Well, yeah, because it involves scoring. Yeah,
right. So this is weird because I actually want the Columbus Blue Jackets to be good. I like parity in the NHL, and the Columbus Blue Jackets have always been a fringe good team. They had the
especially this season, man. Like, how can you not want them to that organization to kind of thrive this year?
But I have a hard time going, yeah, they are a real hockey team as it stands right now. So I don't think they're real either. I think that they're gonna fade too down the stretch. And that brings us to one of the Red Wings' biggest rivals, and we'll talk about that in segment 2 of Locked On Red Wings. So stay tuned to segment 2. From big upsets to game-winning drives, the NFL playoffs are better with FanDuel. Because right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose. The FanDuel app gives you everything you need for live bets, same-game parlays, and so much more. Scotty, this last weekend, I did a parlay where I did money line on each game that I thought was going to win in the NFL. It was a 5-game parlay at the end. And let you know, I lost immediately because the Chargers lost. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today and get started with $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Make this playoff season unforgettable with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. I blame the dirty bubble. It was the dirty bubble's fault.
It's my favorite stat.
All right, Scotty. Ottawa Senators, are they real? They are currently 21-18-3. They are 1 point out of the final wild card spot in the Eastern Conference as we sit here today at 45 points. They were holding on to it for a while, but then after the Linus Ullmark injury, they started to spiral a little bit. This is a team that is not having a slow start to a season for once. Where do you sit with the Ottawa Senators?
Man, it's tough because I have more confidence in them than I think any team we've mentioned so far. Genuinely. And I know that's like tough to say just because this is a Red Wings show and everybody wants...
You're just being honest and objective.
Yeah, like everyone wants us to hate on like everything Ottawa does. But yeah, man, like I think this is a very solid and well-rounded hockey team. Do I think that they're like deep run in the playoffs caliber? No, I think they're probably still honestly multiple steps away from that. But I think that where they stand right now is like we just did the crossover, a week ago now?
Yeah.
That is a team that if they get some goaltending back, which has been kind of hit or miss lately for them between Forsberg and then, like you said, just kind of health in general. That is going to play a huge part in their future. So similar, I guess, conversation to Columbus there. But I think when it comes to the skaters, I mean, you're improved defensive depth, not a super deep blue line, but certainly not a bad one. And then we know what they can do with their forward group. So I think we're still waiting for like they put it all together and they took that big leap forward that everybody's been talking about. But I do think that some groundwork has been laid for them to be a solid team and a competitive team the rest of the way.
Yeah, I think they're real too. They are a team that's got the 10th best power play. They're top 13 in the league in expected goals for percentage at 5-on-5. Their shot attempts for versus against is 10th in the league, so they're very good at 5-on-5. They are good on power play. Their penalty kill leaves a little bit left to be desired at 19th. But this is a team that, once they get Ullmark back, I think they'll be chugging again, and much to, I'm sure, a lot of Red Wings chagrin, right? The Ottawa Senators, I think, are very real. Now, just like with the Boston Bruins, I think this is a better comparison than saying they're the anti-Leafs. I think the Senators are the anti-Bruins, where we always say this is going to be the year the Senators are finally going to make the playoffs, and they don't. So there is a little bit of an element. We got to see it to believe it. But, I mean, this year they got off to a decent start. Unlike in years past, it wasn't just an utter train wreck from the beginning. Timmy Stützle's got 43 points in 42 games. I know the scoring hasn't been quite there the way they've wanted it to, but Brady Tkachuk, love him, hate him, mostly hate him. He's 38 points in 42 games. Drake Batherson's got 38 and 42. So it's just like really a matter of goaltending health. Like I think once Ullmark's fine again, they'll be just fine. And I think that they are a serious contender to win a wild card spot, if not a divisional spot, because let's not forget, too, Tampa Bay Lightning are only at 49 points. That's just 5 points ahead of the Red Wings right now, who are sitting on the outside looking in, and that's third in the division. So that third spot in the division is still up for grabs as of right now. But anyways, I digress. Let's move on. Scotty, you got now the Montreal Canadiens, who are tied with the Detroit Red Wings at 44 points. 20-18-4. Nobody expected the Montreal Canadiens to be this good yet, but here they are. They're firmly in the conversation, and for a hot second, they actually held on to that wild card spot about a week ago. Do you think the Montreal Canadiens are real?
Yeah, I'll keep this one relatively quick. I'm going to go with no, and that's not a slight to the Habs and where they are currently. It is just kind of the progression of like where they are in the rebuild more than anything. This is a team that you and I have been extremely vocal about their bright future for years now. And it's, I don't know if cool is the right word because, rival and interdivision and whatnot, but it is from a hockey fan perspective cool to see them take those steps forward and see that young talent that we were talking about, back in 2022, 2023 start to to flourish and blossom and become solid NHL players. So I still think they're a year away from maybe being in that conversation. We'll see what they do this summer. Maybe even it's still 2 seasons away. As you mentioned, they've already started to slide a little bit from where they were. So I think that's already kind of happening. But I do think that even though I'm saying no for the remainder of this year, that people should be very wary and conscious of what the Habs are doing going forward.
Yeah, they've won 7 of their last 10 games and 9 of their
there
last
you go. That doesn't sound like
12.
sliding to me. Yeah.
Yeah, they lost their most recent game. I think that the bigger problem is other teams are surging at the same time. I mean, granted, Boston and Ottawa have slid a little bit, but the Red Wings are 7 games in a row on a win streak. So they're playing very hot. They just got Patrick Laine back again because he was hurt and immediately scored another power play goal. I think they are a team that is poised to be in the mix, but just is kind of probably going to stall near the end of the season. But I mean, we talked about it. I like their team a lot. Like I like a lot of the young pieces that they got, and they got a bright future. And I think that their rebuild is going really well for them. Goaltending is still an area of concern. 5-on-5 play is still an area of concern for them. Their 5-on-5 play is in bottom 10 of the league for both expected goals for percentage and Corsi for percentage. Obviously, it's the same for the Red Wings, but it's too early to tell with the McClellan era where that's at. Power play, penalty kill. Their penalty kill is currently 9th, and their power play is now up to, with Laine on it, up to 15th. So they got a pretty good / decent special teams as well. So I think that they're the team I'm not sure about the most, which is really impressive considering how recent their rebuild has began. I mean, they were in the Cup final just a couple years ago, and they've completely dismantled it since then. So let's see. We got 2 more quick ones. I got Pittsburgh and New York on the list. And I have New York more so just because, like, that's the Rangers. Like, what are they doing now?
Are you intentionally cutting off right before the Islanders?
No, but that does. I think I cut it off. I was going to cut it off at 44 points, but then I was like, I got to talk about the Rangers because that's so bizarre. No, the Pittsburgh Penguins, right? Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, although he's on IR, is still around. Chris Letang, Erik Karlsson. They are an old team that scores a hell of a lot of goals, but plays exactly 0 defense as a result. Man, glass cannon team. I could personally, Scotty, see them make the playoffs on this glass cannon routine. Would I bet on it? No.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a really tough and uphill battle for them. I don't see them, I guess, similar to the Columbus conversation. Like, I don't see them in their current state legitimately getting into or making a serious run at the wild card. I think that they would have to bring in some serious help at or before the deadline to make me change my mind there. Obviously, they have the offensive talent they've always had. I say always, in pretty much my entire life, they've had the offensive talent. But this team, I have a really, really hard time believing that they're going to make a run. And you know, that even though they are at 44 points and they're tied with, you know, a lot of the teams we mentioned so far, and they're kind of in the bottom part of the mix there, they have played 3 more games than pretty much everybody else that we have discussed. Everybody else is either at 42 or 43 games played. They're at 45 with Boston. So I think that is obviously you want games in hand, and they're on now. It's way, you know, we're talking about halfway through the season. Like, it's way too early to start being like, oh, like, you know, games in hand, they're toast. But I do think that it is going to be an uphill battle for them the rest of the way if they want to.
100%. I completely agree. They are a team that, I mean, it's kind of like the Edmonton Oilers situation, right? Like, you can never count Sidney Crosby out. Any team with Sidney Crosby has an opportunity to make the playoffs, but it is an uphill battle for them 100%. The last team I had on the list was just simply New York Rangers. They are technically below my cutoff of the 44 points that the Red Wings are tied with, but they won the President's Trophy last year, right? Like, this is a team that is falling apart, but with the amount of talent they have and the depth that they still have on their roster, I think it would be naive to count the New York Rangers out. They just gave their goaltender Igor Shesterkin a brand new contract. He's got a .908 save percentage so far. Jonathan Quick, their backup's got a .900. The points-wise, Artemi Panarin's got 45 and 40. Adam Fox is 33 and 42. Trocheck's got 29 and 42. I mean, this is a team that is is going through it right now. And on a lot of it, it sometimes feels like they've quit, not on their coach, but on their general manager. Remember, Scotty, they had a 600 points percentage when Chris Drury said, we are open for business. And from there, they spiraled. And I really think that saying I'm open to trade away some of our players, our captain, love or hate Jacob Trouba, and a lot of people don't like his game. You know, he was still the captain of that team, and I feel like he probably commanded some of the respect in the locker room. To trade away your captain like that in the middle of the season, I think sent a really poor message to the Rangers, and I think that they're in their own head right now. But they're still the Rangers. They still have all this talent. I think they could still be very real if they can figure it out. Because, again, there's just too much talent there for them to completely fall out of it. But they're running out of time to figure it out.
Yeah, this one is, I guess, kind of similar to the Bruins comment I had earlier, where it's just like, I don't know if I have any hard-hitting analysis as to why I'm going to say they're going to be in the mix still, but like it's just really hard for me to believe that this team has fallen apart this much from last year to this year, even from the first like month of the season this year to where we are now. That just feels honestly impossible. But like you look at the production, I mean, outside of Fox and Panarin, like I mean, it kind of has gone down across the board. It's a weird thing. They made, like you said, Igor the highest paid goalie ever, and he's been good. He's been fine. He's been a solid goaltender, but he hasn't been, greatest goalie of all time, highest paid goalie of all time good either. So I don't know, man. I really don't know. They are having one of the weirdest seasons in the entire NHL.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt. So we're going to head to a quick break. And just to wrap up, I think the Rangers are still real. I think the Ottawa Senators are real. You think the Bruins, Ottawa, and the Rangers are real threats to make the wild card.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're saying they are, because obviously only two teams can make it, but you think they're real threats. Interesting. All right. And that doesn't mean that I couldn't see other teams making the wild card.
Yeah,
I just think that of the teams, these are the ones who have the best opportunity right now. Even if that's the thing. The Rangers are still only 4 points back. How
about the Islanders, dude? How do you feel about them?
I think they're trash. Anyways, we're going to head to a segment 3, and when we come back, we'll talk, are the Red Wings real? What can they do to separate themselves from the pack before doing a brief preview of the San Jose Sharks? Stay tuned to segment 3 of Locked On Red Wings. Did Rocket Money help you find any subscriptions you forgot about or that you were paying for twice? I mean, that's got to happen to at least one of you one time. I know it's happened to me. You have a few subscriptions that you didn't realize you were paying for, and Rocket Money makes it easy to track them all down. It's like having a personal assistant for your finances. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that helps find and cancel your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills so you can grow your savings. It brings everything together in one place, whether it's subscriptions, your spending habits, or even the goals you want to hit this year. Rocket Money has over 5 million users and has saved over $500 million in canceled subscriptions, saving members up to $740 a year when using all the app's premium features. Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and reach your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Segment 3, Locked On Red Wings podcast. All right, Scotty, the Detroit Red Wings, we skipped over them. They are 2 points out of the wild card, second on the outside looking in, just behind the Ottawa Senators for that final wild card spot. They're surging right now, right? 7-1 in the McClellan era, 7-game winning streak. Are they real in your eyes?
It's tough, man. It's really tough. Because the reason why this one is more difficult, aside from just proximity and like hometown bias and whatnot, it's very difficult because it is two completely different teams. Like they were spiraling out of control at the end of Lalonde, right? And now we are seeing such a vastly different product that it's really hard to be like, oh yeah, like the hockey we've been seeing lately isn't going to last and they aren't going to legitimately be a part of it. But in the same breath, I feel like it's really difficult to just ignore the, up until 9-10 games ago, because there's a much larger sample size of that. So I'm going to hesitantly say that they will be in the mix. I don't know if that makes them real. Like, I don't know the terminology or exact definition of what real means in this case. I'm not sure I'd put them as like a betting favorite to make the playoffs currently, but like, I think they will be in the mix. I don't think they will completely just slide after this and go back to the bottom of the conference either. So I expect them to continue to be, in the shuffle, playing meaningful hockey the rest of the way, and probably going to make for a really interesting and difficult conversation at the trade deadline as well.
Yeah, cue cop out answer. I think it's too early to tell. Womp womp.
Yeah, that is a cop-out answer.
It's too early to tell with the team, right? They're 8 games in the McLellan era, and for me, whether or not they are real we're gonna find out on this road trip, because they're on a 7-game heater. But who have they played, right? They've played the Kraken. They've played the Blackhawks. They've played the Columbus Blue Jackets once. They've played a collection of teams outside of Winnipeg, and Winnipeg's, really, really good team. That was a great win, especially it was in Winnipeg. But you're going to go to Florida. You're going to go to Tampa. You're going to go to Dallas, and then you're going to go to Philly, who's always plays you hard in Philadelphia. That 4-game stretch to me is going to tell me we're real. How we respond to the Red Wings respond to adversity in the McLellan era, that is going to determine if this team is real or not. Because right now, riding a 7-game win streak, it'd be very easy to get all high on our horses. I think it's impossible to tell right now. I want them to be real, and I do agree with you. They're going to be in the mix to the end of the season, but are they a real threat, as I've been calling it, for a wild card spot? I think this, after tonight's game against the San Jose Sharks, that 4-game road swing, that's going to be the indicator of, okay, how much has this team actually improved? Because they have, in the first 8 games, right? We talked about it. They're over 50% Corsi 4 in the McLellan era. That is fantastic. We talked about it the sustainability episode. After the games against the Blackhawks and the Kraken, they are now over 50%. Corsi 4 percentage at 5-on-5. That's something they need to maintain. Expected goals 4 percentage is still a hair under 50%. Power play is at 50%, which is absurd and not going to last. Penalty kill stats take it. Like, they've taken strides forward, but will they maintain it? So if you're asking me with the 7-game sample size, are they a real threat? Gun to my head, I got to answer. Obviously, the answer is yes. They're 7-1. But in all reality, in all objectivity, they're going to be in the mix. I can't guarantee they are real yet. Ask me again in 4 games.
I will do that.
I guess it'd be 5 games, because as of recording, the San Jose game still has to be played. So ask me again in 5 games.
Okay.
All right, cool. Anyways, Scotty, in order to separate from the pack, I guess to address that point, everything that I just said, they got to do. Red Wings play the San Jose Sharks at home to round out this homestand, in which they are currently 3-0, 7-0 on this win streak. San Jose Sharks, dude, one of the worst teams in the NHL. What do they got to do?
Keep doing what they've been doing, really. Like, I don't think there's too much room for like poking holes in a W7, man. Like, you go for 8. Let's get another win under the team's belt. The Sharks, as you mentioned, one of the worst teams in the league. They're in the bottom 3 in pretty much every category. Now, they're 30th in most of those, right? They're not the bottom 2 in a lot of them, which is something, but that's because you just played 2 teams that take up the bottom 2 in a lot of stats. So, this is a team that is of similar caliber to your last 2 opponents who you beat pretty handily. So I would say that the expectation should be to go out there and make it an 8-game win streak, baby.
Yeah, they are second worst team in the league by standings. They are 31st in the NHL at shot attempt, at 5-on-5 shot attempt share. That's Corsi 4 percentage. They are, 31st as well? No, 32nd. They're dead last in the year in expected league in expected goals 4 percentage at 5-on-5 at 42%. Their power play is 25th ranked, and their penalty kill is 21st ranked. So I think they just squeezed No, yeah, they just squeezed outside the top 10 in worst penalty kills.
Right.
So they are not a good hockey team, although I will say don't underestimate them. One, because the Red Wings have already lost to them once this year in San Jose. And Macklin Celebrini, Michael Granlund.
Baby. He's fun.
William Eklund, too. Those are
yeah,
good
and
hockey
Eklund,
players.
I mean, we've been hearing about from Locked On Sharks since the second he was drafted about him being the future of the franchise. But yeah, man, Mac he's a heck of a hockey player. He's really fun to watch right now.
So don't underestimate him. I mean, the one thing, and McClellan brought this up in his media availability after the game yesterday, or I guess Sunday by the time people are hearing this, is that they had a mandatory off day on Monday, and he kind of wishes that wasn't the case because of the fact that those goals came so easy against Seattle that the team got sloppy in the second half of the game, and he wanted to have a skate to address that so they could tighten it up because he's worried about having the mandatory day off and then going into San Jose thinking it's just going to be a breeze. So I completely understand his sentiment, and I do worry a little bit of a trap game, but, I mean, this is a team that you should be able to take care of business against. We've been saying that for a couple days now, and they have been, and eventually the wheels are, like, the other shoe's going to drop. They're going to lose a hockey game, but just in a vacuum, this is a team that you should be able to beat.
Doesn't have to be against the Sharks, yeah.
Yeah. All right. Final thoughts?
We ball, baby.
We do ball. We'll be back with a new episode tomorrow, recapping the game against the Sharks, so stay tuned for that. Same time, same place. It's your team every day.
Every day.